Hello everybody and welcome to week 3 for some high school League of Legends action, Queensland specific at the University of Queensland. Big thank you for Legion by Lenovo for helping us put this together. I'm Formal at Formal Casting. Joining me, Replays at OCE Replays, not Replays Casting.
Yeah, Replays was taken.
Really?
Yeah.
Who took it?
I don't know.
Well, that's
it's taken on like everything except for OCE server on League.
Well, very fortunately, you were able to get that then.
Yeah, thankfully.
As we are going to be here for, more high school League of Legends as we're continuing through with our second season of the year. We've divided our teams into 4 divisions, and today, with the division where we're in, it's going to be a battle of 2 of those top teams as Rochdale is taking on one of Mansfield's side. I believe it's like the traffic cones, the big, or the
megaphones.
The megaphones.
Like the thing you have with one of those, megaphone.
You can stop traffic with a megaphone if you paint it orange.
You could use a traffic cone as a megaphone.
You could do that as well.
Look at that.
Lots of things you can do with it as we take a look at our lineups, getting straight into this. Only 3 minutes before kicking off. On that Mansfield side, in the top lane, it will be DeadCicada. Ainsley in the jungle. Mid lane is Dawn Slime. On the bot position, BlazingSpirit and Shilostargo on support.
And their opponents today from Marina Lutheran College, Pac-Man 03 up in the top lane, Salted Sugar in the jungle, Äether in the mid lane, kandalpacks rolling up the 80k role, and I Love Carney 176 finishing up that roster in the support role.
Yeah, and as we go through these lineups, again, it's important to note both of these teams undefeated through the first couple of weeks. They each won their first 2 games. You can see the standings right over there. Mansfield, again, the Megaphones, I guess they're in 3rd place according to this, but still undefeated. Their sister team, the Metaslaves, are that other undefeated team within the conference. Redeemers sitting atop as well. Just behind them, chasing them, are MBBC Eagles as well as the Forest Lake Dyda Raptors. Kind of my heart goes out to them just because of their name. McGregor down there below, though, towards the bottom, which is a bit of a surprise as they were one of the best teams during Season 1.
Exactly. I mean, they do have a different roster this time out. Obviously, most of those students all year 12, and they're getting towards the pointy end of the year at the moment. Term 3, of course, is when all your stuff starts to matter. I mean, COVID's a little bit different. I'm not in year 12, I don't know. But, it's close enough. I mean, you can just say, looking at these standings too, Mansfield at the top, both their teams undefeated so far. And I mean, they were our favourites for last year, given, regular home and away season. And when you got into playoffs, obviously, they had a bit of a fumble there to Hillbrook. But that's all right. We didn't watch that game. We didn't hear about it, so it didn't happen. This is their chance to kind of redeem themselves. And look, the way it's going, they could potentially still represent us at nationals anyways. Yeah,
it's an interesting situation happening in our state of Queensland. But before we get too far into this upcoming matchup in the games, once more, I'd like to thank Legion by Lenovo for helping us put this together. Now, Legion as a company, they've been working together to kind of support and send forth high school esports. They've been sort of one of those leading brands, and we're incredibly thankful for them. Similarly, they are a premier gaming brand that's great for work. It's great for playing. No matter what you want to do, you want a solid laptop, especially with, the way how the world is. Being able to get online with a piece of technology that you trust goes even further. 10th generation Intel Core, one of the best out there. NVIDIA GeForce RTX graphics. Again, NVIDIA, reliable, strong graphics card. I believe I have something similar personally myself. Combine that CPU, combine that GPU, get all that memory in there. The point is, Legion by Lenovo is one of the premier brands, and we are so grateful to be a partner with them here at this high school esports league, and we hope to sort of continue this partnership moving forward. So once again, big thank you to Lenovo. And part of their sponsorship and part of this partnership, I should say, that we have with them, we get to find that Legion by Lenovo Savage Play of the Week, and there were a lot of good nominations before. I mean, I had my pick. I think my pick was the one that won it, but as per usual, we got that sweet little highlight package that I think we have just enough time to play right now. No smite available. ITV Warriors should not be contesting this dragon. They don't have a jungler, yet they're kind of stuck in the pit. Another pickup for Kawasaki. Kawasaki Nuki on the hunt. Has to be careful. Hero use. They really want to chase us. They really want Goobis. The damage is there. Goobis goes down, and Shoudry, the only warrior to get out alive. But meanwhile, downtown Detroit doing what Trindamir's do best and ending the game. Congratulations, MBBC Eagles. You pulled a fast one over all of us.
I'm a living legend. You ain't heard yet, you not get the message. From the moment that I stepping in, I get a couple weapons, yeah, I turn to a beast when I'm rapping. I'm a living legend. You ain't heard yet, you not get the message. From the moment that I stepping in, I get a couple weapons, yeah, I turn to a beast when I'm rapping.
So a big thank you to all those teams for submitting their nominees. I like seeing the Mansfield megaphones actually in the running because now we get to see them live, see if they can make a similar play, which got them in that top 3. However, the winner of this week's, Legion by Lenovo Savage Play of the Week actually went from our game on stream. It goes to downtown Detroit from the MBBC Eagles as whoop. Kind of jumping right back to logo there. It was the backdoor play, however, when you can come through with an individual effort to sort of take a game and secure it. Well, we're going to highlight that one. There's a crazy fight happening around that dragon, yet downtown Detroit on the split push Tryndamere. One we were questioning, in fact, during the course of the game. Well, it came through in style at the end, just winning that game, which was up until that point pretty back and forth, pretty tight knit, and one individual effort was all it took for downtown Detroit to take it. So he gets the Savage Player of the Week. A big congratulations to him. That timer of Buffy is about to hit 0. I think it's time to get into pick and ban.
I mean, they just changed the timer. Mr. Producer Jet pulling a fast one on all of us. Once again, behind that screen there, looking at us, making us look silly, not telling us these things. Anyways, I mean, good to see Mansfield megaphones. I mean, it's their second week already. In the first week, they were submitting a play. I think they had a bunch of anning kills that they submitted, and now again trying for another quadra kill from the Shen. So good to see this team getting involved. And they have made these plays. They have been submitting, and maybe that's something that more students need to do that aren't playing. Obviously, they're playing the games right now, so they're not seeing the stream, not listening to the stream. Maybe not live, or maybe they are on their second monitor. If you are, focus on your game. What are you doing? Anyways. So I mean, it's something I'd like to get a lot more submissions from everyone else. We're not getting a lot of submissions. Like this week we only had 5 or 6, I think.
And there's a reason to send it in, because again, if you do win the Savage Play of the Week, you get yourself a fancy new Lenovo keyboard, which is pretty sweet. And I know downtown Detroit's going to be happy with that prize. I know Shilostargo has been submitting a few now, and that Shen quadra kill, it was close. I mean, it kind of was my favorite play, almost style-wise, when you just get the 2 tanks that's going straight down the middle of the rift, and no one is able to stop them. I just didn't feel like, I suppose, that game-winning play. That's kind of where they came up short. I know Shilostargo has been submitting a play each week thus far, really trying to get it, but you got to give him some challenge, people. You got to submit your own plays of the week. You'll get them featured on this stream. You might even win. So please, 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 if you pull off something cool, make sure you save that replay, clip it, send it through on that Discord. Our trusty admins will know what to do with it, and then, hey, you'll find yourself on stream and maybe one keyboard richer.
There you go, and that's a big win to a classic mechanical gaming keyboard provided by, of course, Legion, by Lenovo. We will be hopefully jumping into Champions League when this timer hits 0 if we don't get it put back up once again, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'm very excited to see these two sides. Obviously, when you get into the Swiss bracket format, you only play against the top teams. If you're at the top, you only play against those still matches, so we can always bring high quality matches. And this Rift Rivals tournament, not Rift, Regional Rift tournament, of course, is split up into different segments too, for, of course, different regions here in the state of Queensland. So each region has their own ladders, has their own competition, and obviously this is probably the most competitive region of all the regional rifts, I'd have to say. I'm not sure if 2 are coming from this.
I mean, at the moment, again, when you have sort of 3 undefeated teams with the sort of stature of schools like Mansfield, of like Redeemer Lutheran College, I think both of these are like schools that if they do make it through their region, they could go all the way and be a real threat to actually take this entire tournament. So I feel there's going to be a lot of pressure, as we are at starting soon now. So I imagine that lobby is just making sure it's all set, neat and tidy, so we'll be able to have our game. Who are you sort of looking for to stand out in this matchup? Because again, he submits plays every week, or she, not going to assume genders here, but Shilostargo seems to be submitting plays every week, seems to be fighting for that play of the week, seems to be that star playmaker. Do you think they're going to be the one who carries Mansfield to the victory?
Usually I would say yes, but interestingly enough, they've actually swapped. So Shilostargo has been the mid laner the last 2 weeks, I suppose, and now he's playing support. So I'm not sure what that is. Maybe they've brought in a new player, or I mean, I know this. A lot of schools have actually been using this tournament as more of a blooding for the new players coming through, of course, because the high school championship is the one where you compete for national glory and actually go on and represent Queensland at a larger event. So that's kind of where your focus is. And now that season's kind of over. This is kind of almost a preseason, I suppose, for next competition, given the fact it's at the start of the year. So obviously, it could be trying to do a little bit of that. But DeadCicada, of course, we saw him get that quadra kill on the Shen. Obviously, obviously quite prolific, and maybe because they have that little bit of extra publicity, Redeemer might actually even targeting those bans even more, because it's something different to just see an OP.GG sheet, and it's different to see them, get a quadra kill on Shen. So if that Shen gets banned out, honestly wouldn't be surprised, but we'll have to see exactly what happens, because Redeemer are no slashes themselves. I believe they made, they were top 8 last
they made a run.
so they were doing all right.
They did make a run. This squad, again, whenever I look at these teams, I always try to picture who do I think could have that standout carry performance. And maybe a bit of bias, a bit of jungle bias, but I'm leaning towards Salted Sugar, and I'm going to be watching this player in particular because we know the Mansfield bot lane with Shilostargo, yes, it might not be their main role, but they still are a competent and confident player. I want to see if Salted Sugar looks to go down there and challenge that bot lane with that jungle presence, or flips the map, plays more topside, goes after DeadCicada, goes a bit more after Dawn Slime. What sort of champion is Äether going to play? Are we going to see a roaming strategy used to put pressure across the map? Or is Redeemer just going to sit back and say, we know you can make plays, but we're going to handle them, we're going to scale, we're going to fight for late game, we're going to just play a bit more conservatively? I have no clue which direction this tool is going to go.
Precisely, and I reckon rank-wise too, if you look at both these sides, for Mansfield, that bot lane is the key area where you want to attack. They've got a silver and I'm not sure what rank Shilostargo is. I think he's mid-gold, high silver, something like that. So that if you're going to attack a lane, that's what you're going to attack, because I think the mid laner and jungler are both platinum, and top lane's gold 1, which is basically, I think he's gold 1 like 73 LP. So it's closer to platinum than he is to anything else. So, if you're going to look towards targeting a lane, you generally want to either target those weaker players and get fed, or put one of the strong players behind in this kind of region. And the ban's probably going to reflect that too. If they're going to target out the bot lane, they probably ban out stuff like Ezreal, ban out Yumi, ban out Braum, these champions that kind of can protect and help make them a little bit less susceptible to ganks, and maybe try to force them into something like an Ashe or a Vayne, something a little bit less mobile.
Something I find interesting, though, on the topic of ranks that I kind of want to bring up. Just the other week, actually, I cast a game with the ranks were lower. I'm not going to say exactly what they are, but they were lower on the spectrum. However, what I found very interesting about that game, the team play was not lower on the rank spectrum. In terms, not necessarily of the specific decision making, but in terms of still playing as a team, the working together as a squad of 5, committing to certain objectives. And that went a long way. So it was a team that probably would be lower than your average teams of golds and low plats, but they would have given them a run for the money just by sheer number advantage and the playing of the map. And that, I feel, is very unique, because high school esports, particularly League of Legends within the Queensland state, is still developing. But if teams are now getting to the stage where even the lower ranked teams are able to synergize at that extent, recognize team comps and strategies, and play the brain game as much as the mechanics game, I think that sort of raises the competition across the board. And no longer am I necessarily going to be looking for that team with 1 or 2 star players to step up and carry. I do feel we are at that stage now where we can look to see how teams actually synergize and attack the map as a whole. We saw it earlier in the season split with McGregor, where they weren't necessarily the best mechanical teams, but they were, one on stream, the best operating team. So I feel this could be a game where the team that operates best at a team most likely will be the one that takes it.
And that's what Mansfield historically have been. I say historically, it's been one split, but Mansfield Minotaurs, I believe they were called then. I think that's the Meta Slaves now, I think is the equivalent kind of team. But they were the key kind of, that's their whole thing. They had the best macro. When we watched them on stream, they played immaculately. They played a perfect game. Not a perfect game in terms of 0 kills, 0 towers, 0 whatever, but as in a perfect game in terms of made the correct decisions at the right time every single time they were moving around and doing exactly what they were doing. They knew, all right, we're going to push this lane now, move to Baron, take it now. They didn't run down a lane where the inhibitor was already gone. They just played the map really well, had perfect vision set up. And so now that they have probably now higher ranked players, I don't know where they came from, where they weren't playing last semester, but it's that that school has a reputation for having superior macro, and we'll have to see exactly how that affects them now.
Absolutely, and it just goes back to show, again, there's a reason why you should be, at any level, hitting the books sometimes if you want to play in a competition. You should be studying, you should be recognizing, where to sort of attack the map, as we are finally in our picks and bans. Once more, Mansfield will be on the blue side. Redeemer will be chilling out in red. Red versus blue. I'm going with Sarge and the red team. That's going to be my pick to take this one. I've been watching a lot of Machinima recently as we go straight into those bans, and Trundle will be the first one taken off the board. Yeah,
Trundle, a very safe jungler at the moment, quite strong in that jungle role. Easy to play too, so good fast clear, good control, good gank setup, one a decent champion. Maybe not like the easiest to play actually in terms of like gank setup and stuff like that, but as you see that Shen gets banned away from DeadCicada if you saw that impressive quadra kill. Interesting to see. Do you still call red side, or are you more affiliated with the purple side from back in the day? It was blue versus purple, it used to be.
It did used to be blue versus purple, but I've just been, with, Halo Infinite coming out soon, I've been going back watching all the old red versus blue Machinima series. I don't know how familiar you are with that, so I just have red versus blue stuck in my mind. I'm for the red team. They're less complicated. They have Sarge, who's the best character, as we continue to ban things out. If you don't know what that is because you're too young, this is like what high school students who are into gaming, this is what we had for entertainment. We didn't have streamers. We had...
Back in the 1980s.
Yeah, exactly. We had, Machinima videos, which was just you take the gameplay and just record it and you just talk over the top. And it's like the characters nod their heads as if they're speaking. Brilliant. Either way, though, we're continuing with our bans right now. We do have more top lane focus. Ornn, Aurelia, Trundle. Well, Trundle's more of a jungler, but Shen, 3 top bans out of our first 4.
Yeah. I mean, there's Tryndamere, another one getting added to the list. So obviously, both these sides have done their scouting. Know that as we said, the strength of both these sides is that top side of the map. So obviously, trying to target that out, not going for we're going to punish the weaker players. We're just going to punish the stronger players and go from there. So interesting to see both these teams kind of employing similar strategies. So again, 3 top side bans. Trundle himself can be played top. I know with the Blade of the Ruin King, that champion's not fun. It's not fun to play against. If you're playing melee into Trundle, it's just not a good time in lane.
Are there any strong top laners that are fun to play against?
Set's fun to play against.
Set can be fun to play against. I would argue Rumble is fun to play against as well. But
no one knows how to play Rumble.
That's why it's fun to play against. As Ezreal will be the priority pick locked in for the Mansfield side. Interesting that they're going to be prioritizing their bot side with that first pick, especially with such a safe AD carry like Ezreal. It kind of tells me perhaps we could be seeing a heavy roaming support or more of a top side focus coming from the Mansfield.
I mean, and that is kind of expected. We talked about it a fair bit. I hope this Zed gets something. I've been playing a lot of Zed lately, actually. Because he's getting fun as we see him locked in. I'm surprised. Interestingly, do you reckon we'll see Yone today?
I hope not.
Yone is how you're supposed to say it.
Is it Yone? I thought it was Yone. It should be Yone, though. Look how it's spelled.
Yeah, but it's Yone.
Okay, well, I hope not. I'm not really a fan of that champion, and I don't want to explain why. I want to leave that to be a mystery, so hopefully it doesn't get locked in.
I want you to explain it.
Well, tough.
Now you told us, you're going to have to
I will explain it if it gets locked in, as Salted Sugar still hovering right now, taking their time with a pick. Gonna go with the Sejuani, and that is a jungler we have not seen in a long while.
It's a good jungler. I like that jungler. But with Zed, I'm not too sure. With Yasuo, Aurelia, fantastic, phenomenal jungler. Like, ridiculously good. But with the Zed, I don't know if you can have that same setup, obviously. Required to get those 4 autos, and if you're melee, you do get the bonus from Sejuani as well. And Amumu locked in for the other side. I like this. Nice, simple to play jungler. Easy CC. Very similar to Sejuani, but kind of a little bit more. You press 2 buttons instead of actually landing a skill shot. And hopefully this Nasus doesn't get locked in, because as a team player, it's not the best, but it will get locked in once again. DeadCicada obviously off his Shen, so go on for that. Righto, that's my one team play pick. I'm going to play Nasus and hit the minions.
It's an interesting team composition right now coming from Mansfield, because they have sort of a safe laner on the bot side who can get lane priority. It really depends on the support. But you also have the Nasus as well, who kind of struggles early but then gets strong super late. Ooh. Darius, a kind of champion that actually can punish the likes of a Nasus early.
Peace top lane. I mean, Pac-Man03 did pick Darius last time we saw him on stream. I don't think the Redeemers won. I think they went down to Rochdale. In the semi-finals, they did too, actually. But look, it's a very good matchup for the Darius. He matches up very well into Amumu and the Nasus. Sets up well for Sejuani too, and I think this could be a potential danger area. Pac-Man03, I believe, he had a really good performance, I think, when I saw him on stream last time. It's the one name that kind of sticks out and I remember. Yeah. So it's either a good thing or it's a really bad thing. I couldn't tell you which. And interesting thing, a no ban coming through from Redeemers.
Interesting as well. I'm kind of worried at this stage that Mansfield is kind of like sending their picks and bans into a bit of a trap at this stage, because Nasus is going to get bullied early. They don't have the counter pick in mid lane if that's the last thing they're going to go for. And Ezreal, if that needs to be a priority lane, they need some engage, or at least a serious amount of poke.
Yeah.
Something like, I suppose, the Yuumi. But even then, that's not really going to dominate lane, which I feel like they're going to have to, should Pac-Man start to pop off on this Darius.
Maybe Pike.
Maybe Pike. Pike actually could work.
Braum.
But my point is, they need damage. They need early mid-game damage, and they need it to come from the bot and the mid lane, with hopefully a mid lane leading thing. And Zyra could be that big one. I think Zyra actually could be that sort of surprise.
Because Zyra pops off a ridiculous amount of damage. Or Brand, but Brand's not as good as Zyra.
I mean, Brand's more fun to play than Zyra, but I do agree. I think Zyra would be better in this situation.
Hey, let's go.
There is the Yone.
I don't know where it's going to go. AD carry Yone. I can't tell if it's a good champion or not. You know what I mean? I've played a game of it, and I've played against it a few times, and I'm like, look, I don't think it's that good. But like, I think it's just over. I don't know. His kit is just so. His kit doesn't seem to synergize with itself. I think they've stuck so many different champions' kits into his kit that he just has like he's Yasuo but with a bit of Riven for his Q. Then his W's like a. I don't even know what his W is. It's just. It's kind of a bit like a maybe Nautilus.
So the Liliana and the Wukong
Liliana
are going to Lillia, not Liliana. Look,
is it Lillia support?
I believe that will be a Lillia
Wukong
support
mid?
with the.
I mean, Wukong's a good matchup into Zed, like a really good matchup into Zed. If you are a follower of League of Legends globally, it was busted out first in the LEC when Caps took on. I think Nuke Dog Zed back in LEC when he was still on Fnatic, so like 2 years ago.
And Oraka is going to be the last lock-in for Redeemer. So already we're seeing those new champions coming into play into this matchup, the Lillia and the Yone.
I mean, now Yone's been locked in. I think you have a bit of explaining to do, mister.
Look, anything that has to do with Yasuo is going to get a thumbs down from me, by definition.
Yeah?
Yeah, even if it's a brother.
Fair enough.
Just going to give him
But
the
he's
thumbs
like
down.
a good guy. He's going around killing demons and stuff.
So Yasuo's a good guy as well. Yasuo trains Talia, and Talia is actually pretty sweet. So,
You know Talia's 12?
she's 16, and I didn't. Okay, anyways. Not the conversation that we were going to be having. When I say Talia is pretty sweet, I do enjoy her lore, and I enjoy the whole idea of, returning back to the Shurima, returning back to your ancestors. Why did your first thought go to age? I'm going to throw that right back at you.
Because last time we were preparing for the cast.
That's right. Now I remember.
Discussion about it. That's why I brought it up.
Okay, fair enough. As DeadCicada, again, will be taking that Wukong. So it will be a top Wukong and a mid Nasus to take on the Zed, and I am not sure how I feel about that one.
I think it's better than the Nasus into the Darius. Of course, these could switch around mid-game too. Like, they could be, DeadCicada could be going mid, Don Slime could be going up in top lane. So we don't know exactly. But I suppose... Nasus mid, I go AP Nasus mid? Because that's the one thing Mansfield do not have. They don't have AP unless you're going to Grenade Amumu, which could be fun. I would enjoy a bit of Grenade Amumu. But I think into this comp, Grenade Amumu is not going to work. Because anything you're going to grenade, you're not going to grenade.
Mansfield I worry about their damage as a whole at this stage if it isn't a hard AP Nasus, because while they do have that beefy front line, realistically, a majority of their damage would be having to come from BlazingSpirit, who, yes, in that early mid-game, and Ezreal can absolutely pop off, but as we get later and later into it, I do like the scaling a lot more on the Redeemer side, and there will become that stage where, unfortunately, 180 carry just won't have enough damage to take down both a Sejuani and Darius in one team fight. Like, maybe you can get one of them, but not both.
And it doesn't help if the BlazingSpirit is the lowest ranked player on Mansfield's side as well. So if you want to have a player that is going to maybe put your team on the back and go well, maybe, putting all this responsibility on that player. But I think, Wukong has a decent amount of damage. They have a decent team fight. They have a lot of CC. I'm not sure how the Lillia support's going to go, because Lillia kind of has been one of those new champions that got released but isn't as good. Just because of her build's kind of a bit, you need to go heavy AP, but you just get blown up by anything, and you kind of, especially in support, you're not going to get that same amount of gold you need realistically to kind of sustain your high economic items. So.
It's very similar to Brand almost, but without that like high base damage that a Brand can bring.
In the range, right?
Yeah. So it's going
to be I think into this lane she's going to get poked out super hard. Like I think Shilostargo is going to die like 3 times in lane.
Wow. That's a
bold prediction.
That is a very bold claim. I'm not sure I'm going to agree with that one entirely, because I don't really see a reason for Salted Sugar to actually roam that far down to the bot lane. And Shilostargo should be playing safe enough that relying on BlazingSpirit actually to kind of do most of the lane work in terms of both getting the farm as well as getting some.
But
poke.
You forget Yone has 2 dashes.
True.
So it's gonna rely on a lot of spacing, and of course Lily is a melee character, so if she ever wants to go for any trades in the lane, she's gonna have to get in depth. If the Q's charged up, Yone can dash through, pop that Z ultimate, or whatever.
And melee champions do struggle against Rakas in lane. Like that
exactly. Raka wins the poke advantage. She's going to have constant healing from Q because she's landing those silences. Even then, if she silences you, you can't cast your ultimate. So if you're setting up for that, your passive could potentially wear off before it goes off. It's just a very bad matchup. And given the fact that Ikoma was picked last, well, it was picked last. It was the final pick other than that Soraka pick, and you already know you're playing into either Yone or Zed 80 carry. Maybe the Lily is not the best pickup, especially when we talked about they need some damage, they need decent amount of CC, and they need range support to help lane with the Ezreal, because Ezreal's not as good with melee supports if it's not like a heavy melee support like Alistar Braum.
Yeah.
I mean, heavy is in like a big boy.
Yeah, which I would have actually liked to see. I always wanted to see Mansfield take the Leona in this
Yeah,
matchup, but that was also before the Soraka got locked in. Just because I do like the synergy of Ezreal Leona, specifically that level 3 power spike, just because of the passive from Leona. A lot of times you can sort of lock down a kill. Then Raka got locked in though, and that kind of would have really hurt that
Well, I mean,
Leona.
I think the one weakness that Yone has is he has no disengage.
True.
Right? He has a disengage in his kind of Q dash, but his main gap closing ability is his E, right? And you can't actually use that to retreat. You can, if you pop over a wall, you pop back to the same spot. So you kind of use it to escape. So that's the one thing that Yone, I find, has to be a bit careful about as a champion. If he gets, he's very easy to get caught out. He's not like Yasuo. Yasuo has that escape where he can dash back through the minions. If he gets caught out, he's done. It's one of those champions that if you're popping off and you can kill everyone before they kill you, you're fine. But if not, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. And in a bot lane, I don't know if Yone is good enough to do.
Well, we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of tools to really shut a Yone down as well on the Mansfield side. Bandage tosses, cyclones. Yeah. But all of those are going to possibly be on the opposite end of the map unless Ainsly decides to really focus down below. Obviously, a Wither from Dawn Fine could do a bit of damage. That's going to be the one target. But it's going to be very interesting to see. I feel like both teams are sort of not really matching up where they want to be. Like, these lane matchups are very bizarre in my opinion.
Interesting to see he's gone for the exhaust there as well in the 80 carry role.
Yeah, that is actually a bit of a surprise. I'm assuming that's to stop the all-in coming from Shilostargo. However, yeah, that's sort of a unique choice.
Especially because Lillia doesn't have a lot of damage in her kit early on, at least. I mean, once she starts stacking up the Dark Harvest, if you go for that rune, I'm still not sure if we've worked out what her optimal build rune, etc. is. But you know, if you can't lock that down as the Lillia, it's very difficult for them to then kind of help compete down that bot lane, especially since Ezreal probably isn't the highest DPS AD carry either until he gets a little bit stronger. We'll have to see exactly where these champions go. It does look like Nasus will be heading towards that mid lane as we are coming into a pause straight away, so hopefully it won't be too long. I mean, it is only because that Nasus disconnected, so we'll have to see how long we're going for us to do a little bit of a death brush kind of pseudo death brush set up here by Redeemer. So we'll have to wait exactly before that comes through.
I don't know if that death bush is going to go ahead and be able to snag anyone. Just looking at the positioning, the only one who might walk into that would be BlazingSpirit, and that would be a very ill-advised move for an AD carry to be face-checking bushes. It looks instead Mansfield has set up sort of that defensive line of scrimmage, protecting their own jungle. So I do like the death bush just in case for Redeemer. However, I don't think they're going to be able to find a pick on anyone.
Interesting to see Conqueror taken here on Dean Slime's Nasus in the mid lane. I don't know if Grasp is particularly meta for Nasus. Is it? I think you're a Conqueror, right? Because it gives you that ability to
fight. I would take Conqueror if I were playing top lane Nasus, and I would be
Zed too.
And I would have been going for something along the lines actually of Summon Airy, if I had been going hard AP Nasus. Yeah. Or even Summon Airy actually I think is where I would be going. So I'm with you. I'm a little bit surprised to see Grasp. Now Grasp is typically a tank sort of mastery. Yeah. And perhaps we won't be seeing that AP Nasus like we were expecting. It could be something going a bit more tanky. I will now kind of be expecting that armor stack against the Zed. And that's something that actually I feel Redeemer needs to be cautious of. There's a lot of AD on that side. And if Nasus and Amumu and even Wukong to a lesser extent start to stack that armor, there could become a stage where Redeemer might not be able to take anyone on this blue side down.
Yeah, I mean, of course, unless they build that armor pen that is so useful these days. But I mean, yeah, that is what their probably biggest weakness. There is no balanced damage profile, but it's the same thing on the Mansfield side too, right? They've got a little bit more because Shilostargo's Lillia and of course the Amumu have a little bit more damage than the Sejuani and Soraka counterparts. But again, it's still one of those situations, so I do have to be very, very careful with what they're going to do. As we see Nasus here facing off against Zed in the mid lane, who has Conqueror too, which is interesting. A bit of a different alternate rune as well.
Yeah, I think Conqueror can just be strong on anyone. It might not be, you know, that electrocute burst assassin Zed. It could be something for a bit more sustained damage. Probably reaction to the fact that everyone on the Mansfield top side can just stack armor against them, and perhaps Conqueror might be a little bit more effective in an extended fight, but that's not really what Zed wants to do at his core, so I am as well a little bit surprised by that bot lane actually getting quite aggressive. As you know, Shilostargo gets a bit of poke down, and actually it is kandalpacks who needs to be a bit cautious down in that bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, because initially, right, Ezreal does have that lane advantage, has 2 auto attacks effectively. I mean, so does Yone, but when you're that melee AD carry, you really are going to get poked out quite heavily by Ezreal, one of the most, you know, kind of pokey 80 carries. And you see the only player without a skin too on the map is, I mean, the Yone, but he's brand new, so it's kind of like a skin.
Lillia's pretty brand new as well.
But Lillia has a skin. He has a skin.
True. I mean, look, that's just dedication. Shilostargo dedicating themselves to learning the new champion is hopping around right there, getting more and more poke down. And I've actually been pleasantly surprised with the spacing and the positioning of Shilostargo at the initial point of this game. I was thinking it would be sort of I Love Connie out of the gates, just zoning and protecting Yone in that bot lane position. But instead, it's actually Mansfield who has that early lane aggression.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite difficult as well for Soraka, of course, early on to get that kind of lane pressure. She kind of relies on having a couple points in her queue for that main poke. I'm not sure if you maxed your EVs there. Top side.
Yeah, Ainsly was able to connect with the bandage shots, but Salted Sugar is here for the counter gank as well and will be forcing Ainsly back. Flashing underneath the tower is Pac-Man, gets first blood, but pays with his life, and there is no reason for Salted Sugar to follow through as well. So 2 kills go over to the side of Mansfield.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big turn type, especially given the fact that Salted Sugar had the priority that actually countered the gank, but came through and went for that tower dive, which is a little bit risky. Once you get that flash, that's kind of all you need to do is in the mid lane, a fight to the death happening between these two players as well, but it looks like we'll just walk away with health bars barely intact, and neither of them going back either, both looking to stay in lane. And I think as a Nasus here, you're the one that's a little bit more at risk compared to that Zed.
I disagree, though, because you have that ability to just drop the pool, as I like to call it.
Flashes available,
yeah, flashes are available as well, so I'm curious to see who might wind up taking advantage of this mid lane situation. Salted Sugar is back and could be the one who looks to perhaps engage from that jungle position. Both these mid laners so low. This is like knife's edge situation right now in that mid lane.
I mean, lane is pushing also into the Zed. I mean, you could push back, but... Oh, okay.
Okay, DeadCicada forced to burn flash, so a small advantage going back over to Pac-Man as well, looking to kind of play off of that first blood. Just picked up a couple swords, it looks like, well, and a ruby crystal as well. So you have the Dorn's Blade, the longsword, and the ruby crystal. Every trade should go Pac-Man's way.
I've always noticed this. Longsword doesn't look like a sword, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of does, but it just looks like...
Looks like a blunt metal stick. As Bandage Toss connects on the Äether, a snipe coming from Ainsly, and they're not done yet. Dawn Slime looking to continue to try and chase Salted Sugar out of lane. Salted Sugar's like, hold on. Nasus has low health, tries to flash, but cannot escape the Winter's Bite. As Salted Sugar does get one back. Ainsly continuing to use the tantrum to just whittle away Salted Sugar's health. Eventually, though, the Sejuani will be able to walk out.
Yeah, I mean, that was a peculiar interaction in the mid lane. Both those mid laners staying around for so long. It's one of the things that low elo players do quite a bit. Once you come after one of those big trades or one big fights, they stay in lane and don't really think about the jungle locations. I mean, and it's one of those things where I think they must have been thinking, all right, jungler, come to my lane, he's really low. But they didn't think that the other person was doing it to see the power of Yone.
Yep, just dashing in, getting the poke out, and slicing his way back out to safety. One of the reasons why you can possibly play this champion in that bot lane, you do have that, sort of high mobility to be able to get the farm and just enough range that you can also collect that CS safely. Interesting to see the Glacial Shroud, I believe that is, being picked up by Dawn Slime in the mid lane. So not seeing the hard AP Nasus, they will be committing towards a more tanky build. That said, I would have liked to see actually a Bramble Vest instead.
Yeah, I mean, into a Zed though, you want more of that upfront armor, given the fact that the Bramble Vest is more for champions that have a healing and more of these bruiser type champs that kind of counter Zen, not so much assassins. Assassins. As you see, level 6 engage. Yeah,
actually go ahead and drop the ultimate, but Äether has to be careful. That tower still does a lot of damage when you're only level 6. The Siphoning Strike does not do enough to secure the kill. The Äether just escapes on a sliver of health.
Yeah, unfortunately, they couldn't get those stacks up for the Nasus and doesn't have the flash to follow. So, thankfully for Äether, he stays alive, gets to stay in this fight a little bit longer without having that second death added to his tally. But that first ultimate was definitely one that left a little bit to be desired.
Absolutely, and obviously when you are being like sort of more proactive in using your ultimates, you have to expect to get that kill, as now Äether will be a bit more on that back foot. Dawn Slime has a bit of CS advantage, should be able to turn that into an item advantage as soon as he goes ahead and recalls and gets himself back into lane. Teleport still available for Dawn Slime as well, so even if he's able to shove this lane in, he won't be able to lose much CS on that back foot. Small advantages for Mansfield right now in what has been a very action-packed first 7 minutes.
Yeah, it has been a very back and forth, especially for two sides that are at the top of our standings. I personally at least expected a lot less of an intense game to see another gang in the top five.
Yeah, and that's going to be Pac-Man getting the kill. Good rotation by Salted Sugar, jumps into the top lane, enough crowd control between the two of them in order to secure that kill. So awkward situation for Mansfield as they see their kill lead go by the wayside. Ainsly actually might get jumped upon by a few members. I feel as if really Mansfield should be looking to turn that around, but Ainsly, with no confidence, instead backs away from the fight.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a prime opportunity to go in. Of course, Nasus was going to beat the Zed in the 1v1 Zed. Can't really get a kill. You saw him go for that death mark before, but of course, Nasus was able to have that HP and tankiness to survive. Very interesting Nasus mid lane, but I suppose it is one of those champions that I guess he allows him to farm, gets extra levels maybe too, but I feel like, I guess into an assassin he's able to play, but if he's playing into something like a more ranged champion, will struggle, but obviously was a counter pick here in the mid lane. But I just seem so dumb to play Nasus mid. I just, I'm a mid lane enthusiast, I dislike it.
Yone's walking animation is so bizarre when he has his two swords at his side and just sort of does like, you know, the... I'm trying to show it off in person, but I can't really mimic it. I don't know. He does like a little march where he just doesn't move his upper body. It's really uncanny valley and weird. Now he's back in a more normal position, but...
It's like a more normal position. He's got his swords like,
yeah, that's
he's doing a dab with his sword.
Exactly. He's relating to the Zoomer generation with his dab running animation. It's the new Naruto run, all right? You used to have two arms behind your back. Now you only have one, and with the other one, you sort of do the COVID cough motion and really get in there as... At the moment, the Redeemer bot lane continuing to just CS up, collect a few more minions. I don't know what it is about Yone. I'm not a fan of this champion, and unfortunately right now for kandalpacks, not really changing my opinion of this champion as well as CS right now, very heavily in favor of BlazingSpirit.
As you see up on the top side, unfortunately DeadCicada going to get caught out by that pool, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult here for him to get out as the ultimate is
Flash will come up though, but it might not come back fast enough, and with the bleed, Pac-Man able to secure that kill. I'm surprised that DeadCicada stuck around as long, and once again Ainsly a little bit too slow to the fight, and this could turn into a double kill quite easily for Pac-Man with the bleed following the guillotine was get one right back, and Redeemers now starting to take a significant kill lead in this game.
Yeah, I mean, those two kills up to the top, we did say Pac-Man was the, you know, I had that key Darius matchup, and I think the Wukong mid would have been much better into the Zed. And I do think that Nasus, I mean, obviously we got punished harder, and I guess they've got the advantage in mid lane, but Salted Sugar's here.
Yeah, Salted Sugar's here, it's actually not dropped the Glacial Prison yet, and everyone falls asleep! Great ultimate coming out of Shilostargo to try and lead the escape, but there at the Glacial Prison, it's going to connect onto BlazingSpirit, who tries to throw damage right on back. I Love Connie just sort of face tanking everything and does help Redeemer get out of this, but that was the strength of the Lillia on support.
That was probably the most abilities landed, damage landed team fight without a single kill. Everyone landed everything perfectly, basically, but no one died, and I'm not sure how, but I mean, actually, I just noticed this. Look at the CS lead down in the bot lane. This Ezreal here, near perfect CS, which is very impressive for a silver player. Even though, you know, I suppose you are into that melee matchup, but even then, it's one of the biggest things lobby league players struggle with is that ability to lane correctly and pick up those CS scores. And Yone falling much behind. I think in the gold, if you look at it, I reckon he's probably about 1,000 gold behind, 600 gold behind.
Yeah, that said though, if we're looking at the total gold right now, thanks to the effort of one Pac-Man 03, Redeemers actually do have that gold lead. And a lot of it is coming from that Darius. Now Darius might not necessarily be the big team fight carry that the Redeemers want him to be, but he can become that side lane pressure and really a just sort of thorn in the side of Mansfield that they're going to have to find a way to deal with it. Unfortunately for DeadCicada, the Wukong hasn't been the answer yet, and Ainsly has been a little bit too slow on those rotations to the top side. So Mansfield, they're going to have to adapt to what could be a very scary situation up top, especially when Pac-Man is sitting with both buffs.
I suppose you think the hope is here that Nasus is eventually going to get big enough that he's going to be able to manage to match that Darius in the side lanes, because I mean that will eventually happen. But without the Conqueror, maybe he's not has that same sustain to kind of deal with the Darius bleed or damage coming out if he doesn't have the, you know, massive amounts of armor stacked up.
Yeah, instead he's actually gone for the Frozen Heart first, which I have to admit, I have not seen many Nasuses rush a Frozen Heart.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen many Nasuses do this, and it's like, why not bring Triforce? Triforce is like same thing, but like just it's better. So you don't need you just go Thornmail. That's what you need for armor. I mean, it can be useful in the absence where you're playing against like 380 carries, right? Because it reduces attack speed. But even then, Aranduin's Odin's better. Cold Steel is still applied there. Ooh.
This is a 3-on-1 situation. Dawn Slime will get chain crowd controlled and should go down. The ultimate and the flash keeps him alive, and the bandage toss actually holds Äether back. The tower just out of range, but enough time has been bought for Shilostargo to join the fray. Äether trying to flash out, but gets runned down by Shilostargo. The support picking up the kill on the tail end. Meanwhile, down below, it looked as if that was Yone re-engaging into the fight. Wasn't able to find anyone. Blade BlazingSpirit could have really turned that fight even more so in the side of Mansfield, but with still down bot as Herald gets dropped in mid lane.
Yeah, and of course it means that Nasus will get to sack up this Herald, I mean, if he lands it anyways, as Salted Sugar here gets that bit of a tail plating from dropping that Herald down. I don't even remember him going to pick it up, but it must have happened, must have got it as it was dropped down in the mid lane. And I like the fact that Zed went for Yomu's Ghostblade first and not Dustblade to Drakar, because if you go Dustblade when you can't get a solo kill in lane as an assassin, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Get the Yomu, start roaming, pick up those kills in the side lane when that lane matchup isn't going in your favor.
Yeah, absolutely. Aether needs to really start to explore this map. 13 minutes in, roughly, and finally, this Infernal Drake has been started upon. Something that I really thought the Redeemer side would have actually tried to force the issue a bit more, or even Mansfield with that lead that they had in the bot lane instead. It still goes to Mansfield eventually, but a very late first dragon take.
Yeah, I mean, it is a rather late first dragon take, especially for something like an Infernal 2, which players tend to put higher priority on versus, you know, maybe a Cloud or even an Ocean Dragon or one of the other ones. I mean, generally, the Cloud's the only one that people just go, eh, it's average dragon, even though it's kind of one of the best ones, but, you know.
I love Cloud Drake. I think Cloud Drake.
I don't know. My favorite's Ocean. I love Ocean Drake.
I mean,
the
Ocean
map's
Soul
just
is
so
the best.
nice and serene. It's beautiful.
I would argue Ocean Shoal is the best, and I think for both these teams as well, they would really like to have that Ocean Shoal. But I do agree. The reason why I thought Redeemers were going to put more prowess on that first Infernal Drake is really for Äether. And on this Zed, I mean, that Infernal Dragon would be so huge in turning that mid lane back around, especially with a Yone as well, or Yone as well on the team. I think it just really would have helped both these players cut back into this game, but instead it goes to Mansfield. The team, yes, they're behind in kills, but still quite even in gold. And with that Infernal Drake, I feel like they should have the tempo advantage across the map if they play it correctly.
Yeah, exactly. You know, as long as they have that advantage of controlling the map with these early solos stacking up. I mean, Mansfield, I think, have kind of been playing better macro. They have lost the micro mechanical game, obviously quite heavily up in that top side, but you can see the roamers around, like, for example, Shilostargo matching that roam to their mid lane there, picking up at the right time, and actually just played some quite different mechanics. Ooh, Zed's here.
Yeah, here comes the collapse. Redeemer trying to jump in, and they do get BlazingSpirit almost immediately. That said, Shilostargo buys as much time as possible, but eventually it will be Äether with the double kill. This Zed back online.
Oh, that's interesting. It's unstoppable in that dash from the Yone.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That could be handy. That could be. We could see some nice high mechanics dodging CC with like just an E40 back.
Oh, lovely, isn't it?
It's like
I feel like you would become a Yone main.
Me, nah. I played it once. I was like, eh, it's not as good.
Oh, really? So you're
the champion I've like gone like I want to play a lot recently is Zed. Zed's actually been one having a lot of fun because I never actually got into Zed, which is surprising. Right? Because like I've been in mid lane since I started playing the game, and Zed's like usually one of the first champions, but he's a champion I've never actually like played consistently. It's been like a one game every like 3-4 months. Like, yeah, play Zed, I guess. I'd say he's probably the most iconic mid laner. Maybe him or Orianna, you know what I mean?
Ooh.
When you think of mid lane, you think
Ari.
Yeah, but not in pro play, right?
Well, not in pro play, no. But if we're talking for like iconic,
I suppose. Yeah, Ari, Zed are probably like the three, right?
Yeah, I mean,
when you think of League of Legends, you think of Zed because of the whole. Faker.
Absolutely, as Äether continues to poke out DeadCicada. Who would be? I mean, look. We can talk about this all we like, but realistically, the true poster child of League of Legends is and always will be Teemo. As DeadCicada is being jumped upon underneath the tower, going to go ahead and drop the Cyclone to try and escape, but the tower does fall, and without the protection, it won't be long till DeadCicada follows. Meanwhile, down below, kandalpacks is able to escape a bit of a gank. DeadCicada did go down in the top lane. I believe it was Pac-Man securing that kill as Redeemers continue to build upon their lead.
Yeah, it was a nice kill taken on the top side, but on the bot side of the map, which is where we thought, you know, Mansfield doesn't have that strong core. They are doing quite well down here. As you see, interesting enough, Lillia is going for that Rod of Ages actually as an item, which is quite interesting, but you know, it is what it is. But Yone, they're looking very low down, barely surviving. Of course,
I don't think the True Shot Barrage actually connected with that.
Missed,
so yeah, kandalpacks was able to dodge out of the ultimate from BlazingSpirit. And they're going to stick around. I mean, the sustain coming from I Love Connie right now just means Yone doesn't need to go anywhere. kandalpacks just very happy to chill out in that bot lane.
Ultimate was used though from the Soraka too, so that will not be available for the next minute or so.
It should synergize actually quite nicely, though, with the Mountain Drake coming back up in the next minute. And at the moment, all that vision in the bot side is controlled by Mansfield, but they have nothing to protect Dawn Slime in the mid lane, who tries to flash out but will not be able to escape. Big shutdown going over to Salted Sugar. Pac-Man was there for the assist, and if this Darius is starting to roam and really apply his gold lead, I feel as if Mansfield are in danger.
Yeah, Darius is just too far ahead, and they don't have enough tools to deal with him. They don't have the champions that are able to deal with Darius, you know, online just yet. Like, the only things you can really do against this Darius are maybe that Nasus once he gets scaled, but even then, Nasus does really struggle until later in the game. But I mean, like, really, your only answer to the Darius, I suppose, is the Amumu and the Ezreal.
Oh no, as Shilostargo might be getting jumped upon right now. One or two more autos would mean the stun, so we see the flash coming out of the Lillia. The Lillia with the Rod of Ages, I might add. And the reason why I bring this up at the exact moment you're talking about, you know, Mansfield now going to have to play for that late game. Nothing says late game more than a Roa, specifically a Roa on a support. So
especially a Roa build at 17 minutes is not going to get fully stacked till 27, which is quite late. I mean, for any champion that builds Rod of Ages, you kind of want it done 12 minutes.
Absolutely, and now Shayla might actually be getting jumped upon again. This time there is a bit of follow-up damage coming in the form of Blazing Spirit, but it's not enough to turn the fight around. Salted Sugar will secure the kill onto Shilostargo as up above, Pac-Man forces a flash out of Ainsly, but it's not enough for the Mummy to escape. He can cry all he likes, but he is surrounded by enemies and not friends in this one. The Curse of the Sad Money does go down to try and buy some time, but the follow-up damage from Äether will be enough to secure the kill for kandalpacks in its wake. Everyone on the side gets a kill, barely escaping on slivers of health. I love Canny. I think I had like 2 health after that last bit of healing right there. And Redeemer, they'll back out for now. They did get the dragon, and they got the kills to boot.
Yeah, I mean, and this game's looking very dire if you're a Mansfield fan now. They are quite considerably behind in gold, enough so that, you know, this 4,000 gold lead, and especially, you know, if you look individually at Darius, I'm sure he'd be the bulk of the gold on his team. I think he'd be, you know, total 6k. Now that he's finished that Triforce, it's going to be very difficult for him to really stay, you know, handleable by this Mansfield team. And it's one of those games where I can see it very easily getting out of hand for the megaphones.
I have to agree. The megaphones are in a bit of strife at this stage, and this is going to be very curious for me, especially in watching the Redeemers, because it's safe to say they have the tempo advantage on the map right now. And I always like to judge how strong a team is by how well they can close out a game. Now, it's going to be a bit more difficult for them because that gold lead is on a champion like Darius, who sometimes isn't really the best at throwing that wallet around, but still can be strong. And I still want to see if the Redeemers are going to be able to play around Pac-Man and really start to run this game over.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the one thing that I suppose Mansfield do still have going for them is the fact that Nasus will eventually become online, but I just don't think they're going to have enough time for it to get up, and unfortunately, Rift out here will despawn before they're able to pick up the second one, but the Baron Nash, the big purple worm, is going to be sitting there for us to have a bit of a go at.
Oh, Mr. Baron, I'm excited to see you once more on the Rift as we pass that 20-minute mark. Still only a 3k gold lead for the Redeemer side, despite having a 7-kill advantage. So it's not as if Mansfield are getting completely blown out, despite what that kill count might tell you. Again, Mansfield also does have that Infernal Drake, so they are going to be keeping up somewhat in terms of damage. It's just all about surviving realistically for the next 10 minutes and not losing this game during that span. And I don't mean entirely losing the game, but just like losing enough ground that it becomes an insurmountable advantage for Redeemers. Redeemers, they will be playing with a bit of a clock now, and it's up to them to really push the advantage that they have.
Yeah, I mean, you see down in that bot lane already, they've got the 1-3-1 set up. You've got the Zed that's going to have the advantage in the 1v1, and of course the Darius too is going to have the advantage in that matchup. So either way, quite difficult for them to really deal with. And you see here the Zed popping there. Yomi's Ghostblade can maybe look for something.
What I find interesting too about both these teams is that, like, you can almost say the same thing about both of them, though, that the later they get, the beefier those front lines get. It's going to be an odd situation where, like, it becomes tough for both teams to actually end the game once we pass that 35-minute mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
Whoa! That was a long bandage toss. The flash dodges the true top Rajas. Kamla actually going back in, trying to find anything. Meanwhile, up above, Äether is jumped upon the bandage tosses, as well as the Cyclones doing enough to secure a kill up top. Actually, it was just the Cyclones right there. Kind of fooled by the Twin Monkeys. Good passive. Terrible to lane against. Either way, Mansfield gets a kill.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a strong matchup there for the Wukong. I mean, I did say at the very start, Wukong is a counter to Zed. I thought Zed would actually be far enough ahead to actually deal with it, but I noticed now he's actually gone for Black Cleaver, which is a bit of a mistake, I'd have to say. Sort of
it goes with Conqueror, I suppose.
yeah, but still, you want to stack lethality regardless. You still want to do that instant burst damage. I think, yeah, the Conqueror was a little bit of a mistake. Maybe he took it by accident. You know, might have been playing Yasuo the game before and forgot to swap it over. But, you know, has now maybe kind of adapted his build to that. Black Cleaver is obviously doable on Zed, but I don't think there's any situation you really want to do that. You see, yeah, but even like, you know, like, there's not a single. I suppose actually, they used to stack Black Cleavers on Zed like pre-season, like 2-3 years ago. There was like one patch where it was like mega broken to literally build 5 Black Cleavers and boots on Zed.
I mean, I feel like though that was also largely because Black Cleaver was at such a strong state at that.
I think it was only on PvE it was OP.
Perhaps.
Like they had proposed changes for Black Cleaver that gave it like. So I can't remember what it was. It was like nutty. Or maybe you used to go 4 Black Cleavers and 1 Death Stance or something. It was like a really dumb build. It's like the 6 Infinity Edge Jhin. It's like it works, but I don't like that it works. You know.
I like 1 Infinity Edge Jhin with all the Zeal items. I think that is the best way to play Jhin.
I think Jhin with only attack speed items is the way to go.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You get all the Zeal items in 1 Infinity Edge.
No, not the Zeal, just attack speed. So like, I'm talking about like Ginsu's.
Ooh.
I'm talking about like...
Shilostargo might have to interrupt you right now. The follow-up flash does mean the sun will come through and straight into the ultimate out of Salted Sugar secures the kill down onto Shilostargo, who's been caught out a few times now. Don Slime able to find one back as kandalpacks is out of the fray. This entire skirmish happening over the spawning of the Cloud Drake, and now, unfortunately for Don Slime, he's kind of stuck in the wrong jungle. That does mean Redeemers will go ahead and get started on the Dragon as the Don Slime tries to escape, and despite the Wither, gets pulled back into a bad situation. He still should be able to walk out of it, but the hesitation is going to Kirk against him. Meanwhile, Curse of the Sad Mummy holding everyone in place around that Dragon Pit. Champions falling left, right, and center. Aether has to try and get out, has been ignited, but gets cycloned and goes down. Salted Sugar trying to burst down the Dragon before he gets run over. Blue team goes ahead and steals the Cloud Drake away as Mansfield looks to steal this fight, but Pac-Man is here, and Pac-Man is dropping guillotines, only able to find one onto BlazingSpirit as the fight dissipates for now.
I mean, and this is the perfect example of a 1v5 game. Pac-Man here, the Darius, is the only shining light for his team, and he made a big mistake there by chasing the Nasus. And one of the key issues you can make when you're playing solo queue at home, or obviously playing on stage like this too, is when you have that fed member, you want to be around your team. You don't want to be splitting, you don't want to be away, because you're so strong that you're able to let the rest of your team do things as well. And if they ignore you, you just kill all of them before they can kill your team. So, you always want to make sure, if you are the strong fed member, if you're a hyper fed assassin or whatever, make sure you're with your team and you play around your team. Because if you run away and just go, I'm so big, they have to send 3 people to answer me, but they spend 5 people and kill the rest of your team, the 5 people on the map are going to do a lot more than 1 fed person. So you're really going to make sure when you're playing the game, you play around your team and don't run off chasing kills like Pac-Man just did then.
I also feel at that same token, though, Don Slime had an opportunity to escape from that after dropping the Wither. Yes, he got pulled back in, but he could have been able to walk out. And I do feel as if Don Slime almost gave away his life unnecessarily in that situation. As now we're seeing Pac-Man again going one-on-one with DeadCicada, who actually gets a fair bit of damage back down on the mana-less Darius, and that's going to hurt Pac-Man a fair bit. He can't really stay in lane without mana despite the gold lead.
Yeah, I mean, Wukong is such a strong champion and does actually scale quite well. Once he gets Black Cleaver plus, of course, the Death Stance, he becomes, quite a strong team fighting champion. And you see Yone here taking their blue buff, manaless champion. Interesting, but that is what it is. Got 100 gold, stealing it away from the jungler, denying it from Ainsly here. As you see, Don Slime up in the top side, cleaning out some vision, cleaning out some wards. As Mansfield, of course, did steal that last Cloud Dragon. And I think that's actually put them in quite a good position to kind of start accelerating this game. I mean, I thought it was getting to the point where Redeemers were slipping away, and I thought this big fight would be the one that kind of accelerated them into the game. But because Mansfield won that last fight, it's kind of balanced the game back out again. I mean, they're still 3,000 gold down, but I find with any game of League of Legends, there's always that one fight that you just go, all right, we lose now. And I thought that would have been, if Redeemers won that fight convincingly, like even a 3-4, and they got the Drake, you go, okay, game's over, Redeemers win. But the fact that Mansfield were able to scrap it together, and the fact that Pac-Man ran off and left his team to get killed by the Amumu, means it was just so much more difficult for his team to win. And honestly, that play could have cost his team the game.
And it's interesting, too, because we were talking about how Mansfield sort of had this window that they had to survive. And for the Redeemers to sort of capitalize on that window, it was going to have to come down on the play with Pac-Man. And it is Pac-Man who sort of mispositioned himself. And that's what allowed Mansfield to take it. So, unfortunately for the Redeemers, they didn't play around their win con successfully. And now we're about 3 minutes away until that power spike really comes to an end. That Roa that we were talking about before on Shilostargo is about to hit, max power. You're seeing more and more completed items. The Trinity Force actually has just recently been completed, in fact, for Dawn Slime as well, and that lead the Redeemers has started to dissipate, and now Mansfield are back in a position where they can find that one critical team fight, where they can say, okay, you know what, Mansfield may have just won that game. They're in a much better position to do so now.
Yeah, exactly. Once they're in that position to kind of help scale out, now, I still think Pac-Man's big enough that there's not much they can still do. Like, I think he's a little bit too big still. I still think if there's a 5v5 fight, Redeemers will win it just because of how big he is. But it's kind of like Don Slime on this Nasus is stacked up enough and is strong enough as well as the Wukong to kind of take out everyone except the Darius, where we see Wukong.
The dead in DeadCicada definitely weighing true right now, as Pac-Man will get himself a little legendary, securing that kill right there. But in response, Mansfield trying to put some pressure perhaps down on the bot side of the map. It's actually just Dawn Slime on their own right now doing that split push Nasus thing. It's the mid lane where a majority of Mansfield lies, as they're getting some pressure on that mid lane tower, and they are forcing the Redeemers to react to the blue side's proactive plays that could be a bit of a downfall as Ainsly goes in super deep. Cursing to sad money will hold Äether in place long enough to secure that kill, as kandalpacks wants nothing to do with this, runs straight through, tries to escape. I love Connie nearly falling as well, but the front line has arrived in the form of Salted Sugar, just going head first into Dawn Slime. On the backside down below, though, Pac-Man is actually getting a flank on the rest of Mansfield as we just sort of watch the tanks bust heads. Eventually, Dawn Slime will get taken down. kandalpacks picking up that one as Pac-Man is in a 1v3 situation and actually looking quite strong. Guillotine comes down, gets one, gets two, a double kill for the Pac-Man. Waka, waka, waka. He walks through cleanly, and Redeemers just won a very critical fight.
I mean, that's kind of that other side of the coin we saw. If Pac-Man was still around in that first fight, that's exactly what would have happened. He's still way too strong, and you see 3 Mansfield members that did actually come close to taking him down. I think the fact that Ezreal's now picked up that Executioner's Calling has really helped them survive the Darius, but they were unable to do so, and pretty much every member here for Redeemers is alive. Zed, of course, sporting up 2 wins this, and Baron and Nasha, the big purple one, will be going over to their side, and that's such a game-closing objective.
And this is sort of what we were talking about before when it comes to those critical team fights that can completely turn a game. 9 times out of 10, they end with the winning team fight getting, that winning team grabbing the Baron. I think that's another key element to it. There are still a lot of towers on this map for Redeemers, though, to knock down if they're going to really start trying to end this game. I think this is good for them momentum-wise. They should be able to get the Cloud Strike as well at the back end, or at least fight for it. It's a pretty slow reset, actually, coming from the Redeemers side. Only Äether sitting around, and if Mansfield can get in the position where they can fight for Dragon Soul, they can still claw back into this.
Yeah, exactly. If they can get in that position where they can maybe secure that soul, that is the one advantage. They do have that extra cloud break. With the Baron pressure, it's so difficult for them to actually contest it as it is up now, and you see Redeemers are moving straight towards that objective. I think that's a little bit incorrect. You should push your waves. Whenever you have Baron, you should never ever be doing a neutral objective. Ever. Full stop, never should be doing a neutral objective. Because the power of this buff lets you push lane. So why are you not in lane using the buff? Otherwise the buff's useless. So they took off the extra damage you get from it. As the snipes there are a little bit wayward, and the red team, as you said, red team and Sarge picking up that Cloud Dragon there. Don't know if there's any dragons in Halo. There's definitely not any dragons in Halo.
No, there are no dragons in Halo. I think you do not play Halo.
No, I play Halo. I didn't play original Halo because I wasn't born when that game came out.
Yeah, but they have the Master Chief
I played 3-4, and I have Master Chief Edition.
Yeah, 4 sounds very good. 1, 2, 3 are the pinnacle, I believe.
I think 3 is the pinnacle. 3 is like the best.
I mean, personally, I like 2, but 3 is... You can say 3 is the best game, and I will not complain. As here comes those Baron and Power minions that we were asking for earlier, with the strength of Redeemers 4 strong in that mid lane, as kandalpacks is actually going on his own down below and in a bit of trouble right now in the form of DeadCicada, but that could just open the floodgates for Redeemers to go straight down the center. Pac-Man continuing his legendary killing spree, as the next one to fall will be Ainsly. A double kill for this Darius inhibitor being being bursted down. Yes, kandalpacks did go down himself to the likes of DeadCicada, but the numbers advantage on the map still in favor of Redeemers. Shilostargo, desperation support, 1v4 time. Yeah, that doesn't end well. Another kill secured by the Redeemers side as they are going to end this game in just over 30 minutes. A very back and forth game, but once the Redeemers finally got that critical team fight, they take the Nexus 4 minutes later.
Exactly. It was that exact second they were able to take the Baron, take that big team fight. That they were the ones that then pushed. I mean, they kind of ended the game just kind of like, I was like, oh, they're going to set for a bit of Baron back and forth. We're going to have a bit of mucking around. They'll eventually end the game, but they kind of just went, all right, let's win now. And they just walked down mid lane, took the Nexus, finished the game, which they probably could have done, honestly, like 5-10 minutes ago. Yeah. Not 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. But again, a decent performance of the Redeemers, and now move on with the other Mansfield team. I mean, obviously, pending results, but we can assume. Oh, actually, we can't assume because that's what I said last time. And
never assume in League of
Legends. It didn't happen, especially High School League of Legends. Never assume. Any day. So, Redeemers, the only undefeated team in the league.
At the moment that we know of. I do want to point out too as well, Pac-Man, I don't know how much Pac-Man you've played, but sometimes those big balls, they're hard to find if you want to get them to make those ghosts edible. And so that's kind of what happened, you know? He had to search around the map for it, was eventually able to get it. Ghosts become edible, and he just goes straight for it. You have those windows.
What are the names of the ghosts? I know there's Blinky.
It's like Blinky, Inky, Pinky. And I want to say Mo. I think it's Mo. No, that's a Teletubby. I've got the Teletubbies in my head for some reason.
Teletubbies. It's the same colors, right?
It's similar thing.
Yeah, same colors.
Dude, Pac-Man is just a warped version of the Teletubbies where, like, I don't know, the baby son gets angry and just starts attacking them all. Yeah, that's a story for another day, however, as the Redeemers are our victors today. On that note, it is time for us to start to wrap things up for what has been a different week 3, I feel like. It was a fun one. We had a bit more loosey-goosey here at the studio. That said, there will be more of this sort of regional Rift Royale rivalry redemption arc next week. Same time here on Tuesday. And I don't know, what do you think? How are you feeling about next week after what we saw today?
I mean, I'd like to see obviously I want to see the other Mansfield team, of course, the team that we thought were, were probably the best one in the previous competition. But I mean, everyone's looking good. The Redeemers are looking good. Obviously, the same roster as last split as well, so doing quite well. But yeah, I mean, it's a very different competition because of the different setup. Everyone's not playing against everybody. It's just in your individual league. So some of the better teams, like Intrapilli, for example, isn't in this competition, this current one. We've kind of only been focusing on Metro South so far. I don't think we've seen any other. Maybe we did Metro North week 1. I'm looking him up at Mr. Producer Man to give me the thumbs up, thumbs down, but he's just nodding his head.
Everyone wave to Mr. Producer Man in the Twitch chat. Just give him a wave. He reads it.
Why don't you give us a 12-inch off your brand new UQ Esports
All right, yeah.
jersey?
UQ, obviously, where we do film this. I got myself that jersey. Do the whole, like, wrestler pose, the from behind. But I love it. It's the one-winged angel, some Kenny Omega out there. Thank you to the University of Queensland for letting us use the studio and for helping put on this event. Legion by Lenovo as well for sponsoring good old-fashioned Region Roll Rift, the name of our second season. And thank you to all the schools. Thank you for everyone watching, and we look forward to seeing you next week. I've been Formal. Joining me, 1OCE Replays, and have a great rest of the week, everybody.
Good night.